Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast on location at the Expo. I'm John Watts. This is Brad Cook. And who do we have with us today?
We have Rory and Randy. I had to look. I had to cheat right there. We just met a few minutes ago. I was walking around the trade show thinking, okay, who could I talk to that might have a product that's pool related? And we've been talking to people today that have anything from decks and fences, house builder, the Hello Garage guy over here. We interviewed him because he wanted to be on because of concrete surfacing and all. I saw you guys. I'm thinking, I don't know how that relates, except for my brother has a fascination with solar, and he's always talked about how setting a solar panel near the filter system, you can get close to net zero energy, which is what I don't know what net zero is, but if I did know, I would say that is where it doesn't really cost anything to run, a particular part of your house. And in my instance, it would be swimming pools. So when I saw you guys, I thought you guys got a nice looking booth, probably know what you're talking about. So I thought I'd ask and see if you'd come on, and you did, and I appreciate it. I look forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So. And do you guys have a location around here in this area or St. Louis area, or where are you?
First, we should probably start with what is it that you do?
Oh, SunSent Solar. I'm so sorry. Yeah, well, go ahead.
So we're actually a solar and a roofing company. So on the roofing side, we do pretty much all exterior. We're here to help people protect their homes, make them more energy efficient, and ultimately take control over their power. So. For so long, we've all been at the mercy of whatever utility company you were stuck with. You didn't really have a choice on that. So now with solar and then battery technology, you can actually take control of your power and own that and reduce your cost, turn a variable cost of an increasing electric bill year after year into a fixed cost that eventually turns into zero when you have offset the cost of the solar system.
Right. And so, where do you find people in their journey of, because when you said you're a roofing company, I saw the Owens Corning emblem on your zip there, and I thought, well, yeah, that makes sense now that you said that. But I guess I got fixed on the solar panel on top of that pergola, and I paid no attention to that. You had a generator over there, so. What is your customer like? Where do you find them? Is it during a roofing? Are you a roofer that happens to sell solar, or solar that sells roofing? Or
yeah, so we actually have a bit of an interesting story with that. So our company started out in 2016 as a roofing company, and so our owner Dustin grew up in the construction world. His dad and uncle actually had a commercial roofing company when he was a kid, and so he was a kid at 11, 12 years old out there on a roof learning how to put a roof on, and unfortunately both of them passed away when he was a teenager, and so he then his mid-20s started his own business. And just he's an incredible entrepreneur, very passionate about helping people. That's something that drew me to him when we met. I actually knocked on his door. I was training a college kid how to sell pest control door to door.
Okay.
And we knocked on his door, and he said, "You guys are in the wrong business. You should be doing solar." And I was like, "Do you have a solar company?" And he's like, "No, not yet, but I'm going to." It's like, okay. And anyways, you fast forward about 8 months. That's when I came on board full time with Dustin, and we launched a solar division alongside the roofing company, and that was into 2021, started 2022, and since then, we've just been growing the solar brand quite a bit throughout the greater St. Louis area. And I don't remember where this question started, but that's kind of our background.
It actually should have been the first question, is how did you get started? So you kind of answered what I should have asked to begin with there, and so but I guess trying to figure out, do people just wake up one day and decide they want solar, or do you, I'm going to guess that you always offer it when somebody's buying a new roof. I mean, that would be going without saying. While we're up on the roof, let's put the solar up there, which I think there would be a lot of efficiencies. You got a truck there and you got a crew there. Just go ahead and get solar up there when you do the roof. Is that kind of part of it? And
most often, our customers reach out to us when they experience a painful bill. So
you probably had a lot of those lately.
Yes. So summertime and wintertime bills can overwhelm somebody. The first time somebody gets a $500, $600, $700, $800 electric bill, they start thinking, this isn't for me. When people are putting in pools and jacuzzis and large pumps, one more reason to go, okay, we probably want to cut off that electricity expense.
For sure.
So, I mean, that's about where we get the majority of our customers is when somebody's feeling pain on the expense of electricity.
Right. Yeah, and when I don't mind saying I was going to save this, but when I walked by their booth, they had like a pergola with a solar panel on it, and it made me think pools need pergolas, and everybody wants solar. Everybody wants something for free. You know, obviously you got to pay for the panel, but the dividends that come from that investment seems to. So that's kind of how I tied us together on this. Like you save. While they're financing a project, if they're going to do the whole backyard, then let's look at what solar would cost and then what kind of savings. I'm sure you guys have numbers on the payoff and how that looks. Is there a way to kind of segment what you can do or to give some sort of price range on how solar would do and how it's positioned and what variables? Because I'm thinking, okay, if you live on a shaded lot without any sunshine, trees all the way around, probably solar doesn't quite have the payoff. But if you're facing, I'm going to say if you have a a roof rather, that faces west, you're probably in a good shape. If you have a roof that faces south, you're probably in
very good
shape.
Yep.
Better shape, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. I know the north face is probably not that good. That's where snow lives a long time.
So Rory actually says something quite often, and it is that solar is the only home improvement that actually pays for itself. Because when you're putting solar on, yes, you're paying for solar, but you're eliminating an electric bill at the same time. So you're replacing one expense with a smaller expense.
Right.
So if you are going to do a pool, if you are going to do a pergola, if you are going to do some other home improvements or, make your backyard fun and exciting, solar is the way to actually help pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to pay for the whole pool, are we?
Over time.
Yeah, we see with electric rates being what they are typical. So they look at the lifespan of a solar system at like 25 years. So they'll continue to work after that, but that is what the standard warranty period is these days.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the cost savings over a 25-year period, it's $100,000 plus for the most homes that we're looking at in this area right now.
Is there degradation over time? So, like as you go.
Great question.
Well, I know because here's two things. First of all, I'm from Ohio originally, so I have a lot of people up there. Like in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, 106 days of sun a year. So everybody's like, solar doesn't work, and then I'm like, but it does in where we live here. So I've seen it. And then South Dakota, I lived it for 10 years. And solar is at a different angle there. It works, but it's like you have to be almost like because you're at a higher latitude. Yeah. I'll shut up now, and you can answer my question on the degradation over time.
Yeah, so degradation, it's going to depend a little bit on the panel, but yeah, your average degradation warranties. So again, with the warranty, they all typically carry a 30-year production guarantee. So it'll say that they can degrade up to 2% that first year, and then typically you're right around 0.5% every year after that. So if you fast forward 30 years, you're somewhere between a guarantee of 80 to 87% of your day one production you're still going to be getting.
How do you fight that? How do you fix that? Do you change out the panels?
Technology is always changing, right? But I think we've kind of hit a plateau on the panels. Really in our industry, all the research and development now has turned towards like the battery technology and really getting to that energy independence. So with the panels, if you think about something, I hope I work 87% as well 30 years from now as I do today. Right?
That's exactly where I was going on that. I'm thinking, how do you fix that? But why would you want to fix something that has already paid for itself however much?
Yep.
And then, you could add, if you needed that, you could add panels to it, but I wouldn't dare.
25 years from now, those panels are going to be classics, is what they will be.
Right.
You won't, if they're still producing electricity, which they should be,
right.
Then they'll be producing a little bit less, but why would you get rid of something that's still producing free electricity for you? You have a tiny power plant up on your rooftop, you might as well let it keep going.
Right.
And one of the things to further answer that, I mean, a lot of times we'll look at it and we'll go ahead and price out, like, what's the cost difference if we go ahead and add 2 or 3 more panels right now?
Right.
Okay, that's more than what you need at this moment. But if we fast forward 10, 15 years, right, it counteracts that degradation.
Any tax benefits from the government right now for doing any of this type of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the industry's got a little interesting here lately, like the original residential tax.
This happens every so often.
Tax benefits, any tax benefit.
You're the winner.
Yeah.
The first name is Stephanie Stovey.
Start over in a
Stephanie
second.
Stovey.
And it may not be coming through on the mics, but it's bothering me, so.
I think if we can hear it, it's probably coming through. There's a little bit of interference overall here with everything around us.
And you think it's over, but it's not. They're going to say something.
Say something again?
No, they're going to wait on to start talking, and then.
There we go. And we're clear.
All right. So tax benefits, you've got basically there is still a 30 to 40% tax benefit. And how that's recouped kind of looks differently. So it used to be a homeowner could take direct advantage of a tax credit, but that portion has went away, and now it's all on the company level. So commercial projects, businesses can take a tax credit, and so the model of how a homeowner gets solar has changed a little bit to where typically it's under what's called a TPO, through a third-party ownership. So basically an investment company owns the solar panels that you put on your house. Because they can take all the tax benefits and then they pass that savings on down to you. So it's something that's actually really opened up the population of who can take advantage of solar. Because with the old model of it being resident taking directly the tax credit, if about 80% of the population didn't fall into an income bracket to take full advantage of that tax credit. So now by a company taking all of that tax credit, it doesn't matter what your tax liability situation is, right? Like if you're retired and you're not really paying much in taxes anymore, but you have high electric bill still, now you can immediately just cut that electric bill by 30-40% and just be paying a lower payment right out the gate. You're not talking about having to pay for a $50,000 solar system and wait for that benefit.
And so there's kind of a day one payoff or month one payoff. Is that kind of what I'm hearing, or do you kind of have to have electrical for several years before you ever start to feel the? So
if you were paying cash from a solar perspective, then you're looking at it from a cash perspective, and you're looking at what's your return on your investment. If you are doing a third-party ownership or a PPA or something else, you're basically just exchanging a high payment for a very low payment. So you see the benefits on month one.
Okay.
So for all of your pool shoppers, if I was shopping a pool right now, I'd be looking at solar at the same time, because then instead of having a $400 electric bill, you move to a $200 PPA payment. You're paying half for your total electricity.
Okay.
Is it possible? Can I get off the grid? I don't want to be on the grid anymore.
Rory gets this question.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's so you can, and that's actually where my fascination with solar started. So my parents lived down in Tennessee, and they bought some land in
Good for them.
Lafayette, outside of Lafayette, Tennessee, so up close to the Kentucky border there. And they decided they were going to become homesteaders, right? And so they moved off the grid.
I love your parents.
So they've since got away from that dream, but for 5-6 years, they literally lived 100% off the grid. And that's where I saw solar for the first time, when they put solar out on their land. And now all of a sudden, this piece of property that we would go out to for the afternoon and work on and do things, and then we would go back home. Now we had power there, And
Nice.
we could actually stay there overnight, right? They parked their camper there, and that became their home base as they started to develop their property. And now all of a sudden, we could just go stay out there for the week.
Nice.
We had power, we had running water because it could run the well.
Right.
And I was just so amazed by, just overnight, we went from this place that we could go for a few hours at a time to now we can go stay out here. And so when I came home after that, I started just kind of paying attention to the solar industry and stuff, and hadn't really taken off in the St. Louis area yet. But within a couple of years of that is when I really got into the industry, and it's been a real blast. So to answer your question, yes. Now it's a different lifestyle, right? Like to truly be off the grid is a situation where you're really monitoring how you use power, because you're going to have 3 cloudy days in a row where you don't have a whole lot of solar production. So what most of us do is stay connected to the grid, and we exchange power constantly with our utility company. So sun's shining right now is a perfect example, right? The sun is shining, the weather's beautiful, so a home isn't using a whole lot of power typically in these conditions. You're not running the AC, you're not running the heat.
Yeah.
Your solar panels are producing a ton of power. So what happens to that power that your home doesn't need is being pumped back into the grid. Utility companies using it to offset power consumption at other homes,
Right.
but they're giving you credit for it then. So then when you have those cloudy days or nighttime when you're pulling power from the grid, your credit that you sent into the utility company, now you're pulling it back and using it at that point in time.
When you were saying that, I heard the word batteries when we first started talking about that, and so I'm trying to get my brain wrapped around, because I think if you're not using anything, you're going to fill your batteries first,
Yep.
and then anything the spillage goes into the grid, and then I've heard the story of this guy that's got 10 in his backyard, and kind of the back 40, but it's like on a 4-acre property. Not the most sightly thing ever, but but he's making money on his. He's not every month. He's not spending as much as he's not using as much as he's creating, so he's getting a little bit of a check back. But I'm thinking, and that's not really good for all yards. So are you doing a lot of? How are you mostly on roofs? And then when you be in a roofing company, that's my assumption. But then tell me about the batteries and how all that kind of works into the electric system on the house. Is that a Randy question?
So
Like Randy's
I feel like I've been talking too much.
Randy's getting off easy here.
I tried to push it back.
Okay.
So batteries are purchased for a couple reasons. One is what most people don't realize with their utility bills is there's big time of use plans now. And I think the big one now, aren't we coming up on 40 cents? So we're coming up on 40 cents on your most expensive usage. And we were talking about this a couple days back. In California, they might be paying as much as 85 cents during peak times.
Is this a per kilowatt hour?
Yes.
Are you kidding?
So, okay, what you're used to is you probably think you pay 8 or 9 cents a kilowatt hour. That's what you think.
Okay.
However, if this is the fastest way to do it. If you take your utility bill and you take the total dollar amount that you spend on electricity, not electric and gas, sometimes they're combined. Oh, you have it, don't you?
I may.
So if your electric bill,
if you take that total dollar amount and you're dividing it by your kilowatt hour usage, you're going to come out at like a blended number of like 19 to 20 cents is what almost all of our customers pay across the board.
Okay.
So yes, you think you're paying 8 or 9 cents, but you're paying 8 or 9 cents on your energy. You're paying 8 or 9 cents on your delivery. Then you've got a bunch of taxes and things built in. It gets really expensive really quick.
Yeah.
So where customers, the reasons why customers are buying batteries is for one of two motivations. Is A, these on-peak charges are way too high. So what will happen is there's settings within the battery. So during the day, when electricity is most expensive, you'll stop taking it out of the grid. You'll just pull it out of your battery because then it's free to you. You're not paying the high rate. The other motivation behind batteries is for power outages.
Right.
So then you get X amount of kilowatt hours to supply your household while the grid is down. Did you find that?
Yeah, I'm looking, and
Okay.
I'm trying to to even. I'm embarrassed to say I'm not even sure if I've ever even paid attention to kilowatt hours. All I've ever looked at is I owed $350 last month.
You can't see past that.
Until I started doing this, I never paid attention to a kilowatt hour, and I don't know about you, Rory.
It says current reading 89,328. Amount used 3,032.
3,032.
That's the one.
Divide that by 350
Yeah.
Yep. So
$350.
what's your utility company?
weekly.
Should I say that? Weekly County Municipal Electric System.
Okay, so I was going to say that you must be on like a co-op or a smaller one that's because you're only at about 11.5 cents right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's good.
Net it out. Net it out. I mean, because you guys do it kind of like I do a concrete ticket. It'll say it's $150 a yard, but by the time you pay delivery and surcharge and fuel and import fees or whatever they stack onto it, you're paying $210 a yard. So you know, it just you got to look at the bottom line and divide it by the the unit. And so that makes sense. So
I was thinking about like all my family. I just moved here again this year from South Dakota. All my family has generators.
Yep.
And with the solar power, you have a storm, you go out or whatever, you just live a little bit less off the grid during say if the power's down, I still have power?
Yeah, so with the battery backup you do. So that is one of those misconceptions, right? So, when you have solar and the power's out, but the sun's shining, it's like, oh, I should still have power. And unfortunately, it can't work that way.
Am I asking all the right questions?
Yeah,
now?
absolutely.
Okay.
You got to have a buildup of power.
Well, so it's like you've got to have something that controls and regulates that power, right? So with solar by itself, we still are utilizing the grid's brains basically to control how that power is being distributed. Okay, and so if that grid disconnects, there's nothing to tell that power what to do.
I see.
Right, and so without a battery.
Like a Tesla wall.
Right, like power walls. Yep, one of the most popular ones. So without a battery, you would be sending power back into the grid, and that poor lineman that's trying to fix your power lines for the rest of the neighborhood, well, he just gets electrocuted. So
that's great. I got a son-in-law to be that's a lineman.
Okay, so there's safety precautions put in place to make sure that doesn't happen. But so with a battery, then this is why you can still have power, right? Because they go into what's called islanding mode, where you disconnect from the grid, but now your power is able to continue to keep producing because now it goes through the battery, and the battery's then pushing power to your home. Nice. And so there's just you've got your own, you are your own island. You can do this loop, and as long as you're getting sunshine, and you're probably going to manage your usage a little bit differently, but you can continue to have power on at the home. Like I've got my battery set up to just handle like a handful of outlets, and the blower on my heater, because my heater's gas, but I need an electric blower there, and a few lights. So I'm not living life like normal, but
don't forget about the fridge.
I have the fridge, absolutely. Sorry, that's
hot
the
tub,
standard one.
Sauna,
right? The necessities.
You gotta
all the necessities
in life.
Pool pump, all those things are staying connected. First things that we put on there.
Yeah, you mentioned. A little bit ago, you talked about the peak times, and I had heard that was coming. And this is talking to a boy from Tennessee, that I heard that peak times, or that it was going to cost differently at different times of the day. And you said that's here, and I heard that was going to be here, but is that just here or different parts of the world, or am I doing that? Is that in Tennessee now? Because I got a follow up to that.
So probably, and the reason why is the utility companies figured out they can make a lot more money by doing that. Yes, if you will manage your electricity and if you will budget it between hours X and Z, you will have cheaper power.
Right.
But the bad side of that is, unfortunately, your electricity is going to be 3 times more expensive during the peak hours. And from what I understand, and not to say anything bad about any utility company, but I know the ruling was in Missouri that the utility companies were automatically putting you on that plan. So you could opt out of that. Right. But they were putting you on peak demand fees.
So you're not going to mention Ameren's name. That was on me. That was on me.
Yes.
No, but the follow-up to that is in the pool business, if you think about, so we have a lot of variable speed pumps, right? Okay, and they can be set to where they run extremely low speed during the day. The skimmers will work, and everything that falls out of the sky, everything that enters a pool enters from the surface. Okay, So if you shut your pool down during the day, then it's got to work a little bit harder because everything is eventually saturated. Anything that comes into the pool, it's got to saturate before it can fall to the floor. And if you've got your skimmers pulling, then you have a chance at a cleaner pool. And overall, if we're splitting hairs, it's less work. And then, so if you take that system that you're talking about or if you want to try to beat their system, then we could program our pump to be low speed during the day, and to make up for the lack of filtration overnight, we could crank it up high and let it run, during the non-peak hours, and still get excellent filtration. Kind of beating the system there a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the projects that I'm looking at taking on has to do with this. So basically, as you said, beating the system, right? So and the reality is, it's actually even beneficial for the utility company. It seems kind of counterintuitive, but right. The reason why there's these big variables is because energy is on demand. So when we have big peaks in power consumption in the middle of the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the middle of the summer when it's 100 degrees and everybody's AC's cranking, the Ameren is paying 10 times as much for that power.
Okay.
So, they are then trying to pass that cost down, right? The other thing that happens with that, though, is it's also straining the grid. Right. And you got to think about our grid was built in like the 50s and 60s. Yeah. Power consumption looks a whole lot different now than it did back then. So, and we're only continuing to go up, right? But anyway, so back to the tool. So, if we can create a tool that helps take people's power, what things are you using and what do you have control over? Pool pumps are a great example of this, right? Can we program these to run specifically during the times when power cost is the lowest, or when you have the highest production from your solar system? Right. So that extra power, we're going to utilize it at the home level instead of sending it back to the grid at that particular point in time. And so, with AI and everything out nowadays,
so I was going to say,
yes, we
feel
can
like
use
AI
these.
would be able to.
Yes, yeah, that's the only way. I'm definitely not smart enough to come up with calculations and everything myself, right. but we can put together a tool that really looks at a customer's home usage and those different things that they can program, whether that's your thermostat or when you start your dishwasher, your dryer, your pool pumps, the jacuzzi, all these different things that you can really game the system to help utilize it all together to make just the lowest overall cost to the homeowner.
Right.
Is there a way with setting up a home system? Like, I assume that you come in and you look and you basically would look at all my electrical bills and determine how much solar I need. Is that how it works, or?
So you're actually going to send me that bill that you showed me a couple minutes ago.
Uh-huh.
Then what we do, we have your address. We're not going to show up, but we have your address so we can see your house from satellite images.
Okay.
So we design a system that fits on your rooftop or on a ground mount or on a pergola system, which we're always super excited about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it's based on how much energy you use. And then through a consultative approach, we figure out, are you going to be using more electricity? Are you going to be adding a jacuzzi? Are you going to be looking at an EV in the future? Like, what's going to change in your needs? Because we'd rather account for that right now. And that's the system that we try and build for you if you have enough roof space or ground space.
Okay.
So we want to completely offset all of your usage as much as possible, because it's a lot less expensive and a lot more efficient to do it one time and take advantage of all the...
Then keep adding on later when you determine, I just bought a Tesla and now I need it. I want to do, and I don't mean to keep pitching Tesla.
Yeah. You're good. Yeah.
It's the big name out there.
Rivian.
We
there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I like those trucks. I would love one. Yeah.
We do get the phone call twice a year from one of our previous customers that go, "Hey, Randy, what's wrong with my utility bill? Now I'm spending $60 a month." And we go, "Did something change?" And we go, No. We go, "Well, you're looking at your system. It's cranking. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to." We send a salesperson out there or one of our techs out there to take a look and see what the issue is. And There's 2 Teslas parked in the driveway, and they're both charging. We go, well, you did add these 2, power plants.
Right.
So,
but $60 a month.
Free.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, sign me
He's
up.
complaining about $60 a month.
So,
okay.
Well, when you're used to them being negative, that's
Well, there you go.
it changes
just getting
things.
credit.
Yeah.
Like some people get credit every month for the most part.
Yep.
Yeah,
And so,
that's
depending on each utility company handles that a little bit differently. But yeah, we've got actually one of our previous happy customers finally came to go work with us. And that's he's walking around with his electric bill that's like negative $70.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically,
Fires me up.
it's, and I don't mean to keep hogging all the time here, but I'm like ready to be like, so come, do you guys work in Union City, Tennessee? Can I get you to come down? Because I'm thinking, in theory, is it possible that could I take by my purchasing it, like my payment of this for the system would basically just be the electric bill or less. And so it's not even costing me anything. It's basically, I'm just trading an electric bill for a payment to you, and eventually that goes away.
Yes, and that's I always say people who get solar are the ones that realize they get the understanding of I'm taking a variable cost, right? Getting electricity from the utility company is not going to stay the same.
Right.
We don't have any control over that. It's going to continue to go up, right? We know no matter what the case, inflation will drive that up. And I'm turning that into a fixed cost, right? Now I'm buying solar, or I'm taking out a third-party ownership agreement that says I am paying this flat amount for power forever. And so now, we've seen here in the greater St. Louis area as much as a 300% increase in the cost of power over the last 4 years.
Well, data centers, people talk about AI with it, including data centers. You start it starts to affect communities' power usage.
Yep. Extremely, yeah. I mean, that's you look at so you have normal inflation, right? Like we all felt that over the COVID experience, right, where inflation drove everything up. Well, everything else is leveled out, but why is power continuing to increase significantly? We saw another 50% increase in Illinois over the summer. It's like, okay, why is it different? Well, so many things factoring into this. One, the EVs, right? Two, the data centers. Randy and I were actually talking about this the other day. If you think about, you use ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT, and a billion other people use ChatGPT. So we see it as one entity, but it's really, we each have our own little bot now that takes a lot of electricity to run. And so they are massive consumers of electricity now that, 3 years ago.
Still less than YouTube, Netflix, and all those others, to be fair.
Yeah.
In a little defense of AI.
Oh,
they're a sliver of what's used in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
But we've accepted YouTube.
Right. Yep.
But anyway, go ahead.
Because it's been around. Absolutely,
Yeah, right.
But yeah, you just take now we've added another big chunk that's continuing to grow. That if you would have asked anybody, 8 years ago when the power companies were planning upgrades to the infrastructure, is there going to be some massive new technology that's going to increase usage across the board 10%? They would say no. What would cause that, right? But here we are. And so on top of those things, you have an infrastructure that's in massive need of upgrades. Well, obviously the cost of doing those upgrades is extremely expensive. So we have higher demand, which always drives cost up. We have massive upgrades that need to take place that obviously have to be paid for from somewhere. And utility companies are not nonprofits. They are there to make money, and that's why we're just continuing to see the massive increases in utility costs.
Well, a couple more questions. I'll tell you our average ticket if you'll tell me your average ticket.
Yep.
Our average ticket is around $80,000 for a pool. So what is your average, not roof part, but what is your average solar job? And then the follow-up question is going to be when are roof shingles going to be the solar panel?
Yeah.
So
you take the first one, I'll take the second.
Okay, so our average ticket has been changing over time. If somebody's looking at just solar and they're not looking at batteries, it's going to be between $25,000 and $30,000 is what their average ticket is. Now, if you're on the Illinois side, the state pays for about 50 to 60% of that through a couple different programs, which is nice.
Nice. Yeah,
If you are in Missouri, you're definitely looking at third-party ownership or a PPA. And the reason why is because then those tax credits are absorbed by the lender, and then the lender can pass them on to you as a discount. So for most of our customers, they're looking at solar as a payment now rather than, what's the net cost. And when you look at it from payment perspective, our average customer pays about $250, and then when they get on one of our PPAs, they're going to be in that $125 to $140 range. So what it is they're doing is they're replacing a big expense with a smaller investment is really what it is.
And eventually that goes away?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. It's a cost savings tool. So what was interesting is, when I watched the light bulb go on above your head is when you're like, wait a second, I can do this. So when our guys and gals are out there talking to people, solar really isn't a sales process. It is an education process.
It certainly is.
Because once you realize, wait a second, there's this out there and this out there and this out there.
Yeah, why not?
It's pretty simple because when we explain all the facts and show everybody what their options are, this isn't something you have to push and drive something crazy about. They just look at it and go, yeah, I want to save $80 a month every month this year. And then next year that's $90 a month. And the next year it's $100 a month. So it's an inflation fighting tool is really what it is.
It's compounding interest. It's the same thing they tell you to invest money as a young man, right? You start investing when you're 18 and you can stop at 28 and it'll be $1 million, right? Because it just keeps compounding. So it's the same concept. Putting solar on now, as utility costs go up next year and the year after, I'm not paying anymore. So my costs just my savings continue to increase, and that's where we get to those 25-year numbers of over $100,000.
And honestly, it makes me not really care if it looks like roofing shingles or not, because that's money, and you can. It still it doesn't look bad on a roof. It seemed like I read somewhere or saw a video about that solar panels were trying to be made to where they almost were disguised in a roof and inside of shingles. And the first part of me thinks, okay, but you don't need them on the north side.
Right.
And then then I think it's where, the south, east, and west, I'm also fixing it as I process it. Think, well, they can all probably look the same, and one's be live and one's be not.
Who's
live.
out there opposing solar? Who's out there? Because there obviously is
Big oil.
Yeah.
I agree what you're saying, because this seems so no-brainer that I'm thinking that you guys would be so busy you would not sit down to talk to us because you didn't need to get the word out, because it's freaking no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of education, right? Like, I mean, you guys have learned, like you mentioned, the light bulb goes off.
Well,
right?
this is part of that.
Yeah,
this show.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and that's really all it is, and we see like it's growing and compounding as more people see it on rooftops, and they're going, okay, like I apparently need to look into this, right? And so, it's the traction goes. Here in the Midwest, we're a little bit slower to some of these concepts, right? Like it happened a lot quicker out on the coast because their power costs were so much higher.
Yeah.
So they felt the pain and they said, okay, is there something I can do about it, right? And now, if you were in California or Arizona, I mean, you would see more buildings and homes with solar than without, So now that we're starting to see the trend here of power costs going up, people are saying, okay, what can I do about this? And then as they see the trend take on, more people start looking into it, and the education's catching up then the people understanding.
I think some of it is political. So that it's seen as kind of a hippie lefty thing to do that for in the Midwest where it swings right a little bit. And I'm not being political. I'm just trying to say that's what the idea is.
If you see my head, like this is where my thinking.
Right. I mean that's where I'm thinking that maybe.
How could that be?
Well,
because I'm on the side of like homestead prepper type take out. My mind. I want to not have to be, tied to the government, which is a whole nother thing.
Do you have that
different.
6 week supply of dehydrated food that you pour water on and to survive? I mean,
it comes with
you're
every
making a joke,
system.
but yes.
I wasn't making a joke.
So
I've also I like to invest in metals, instead of like the paper currency. So like brass and lead.
But to that point of the kind of being seen as hippie or that type of thing. So that was really for the longest time how people saw solar, right? But by far, the majority of our customers are conservative-leaning people because it's the investment side of it. Once people realize that, one, either this is good financially for me, or two, I can control something, off the grid. Like, I have control over my power, right? Like, government.
Freedom.
Right. It is. That's exactly
it. Means
So
liberty.
it's like, and that's 100%. And that's what it is to me, right? Like, that's what I was all about with solar is it's like we liberate people from the grid. They no longer have to be at the mercy of the power company just telling them this is what you're stuck with. No, I can control it, right? I have some say in the way this is going to work. I can produce my own power. I can store it, and now I'm not reliant on somebody else to take care of my family.
So, and I'm going to put you on the spot. We probably, in the interest of the time, probably need to wrap it up. But
I could keep going, but we'll have you back on another day.
As could I, because this is like when I saw you guys, I got to talk to these guys because I'm fascinated with it. Obviously, John is, and before he crawls down in his silo with his his oatmeal, I was just going to say, I don't know. But there's a pergola right over here that, the lumber company, it is going to. He said he would sell it to me, and
Can't remember. Yeah,
Lacey,
yeah.
lumber company, and I was thinking, okay, I wonder if we could put that out at our store out there at we're at 105 Auto Court, at Fallon, right?
Yep.
Right.
And then get you guys to install one, and just putting you on the spot, a free one. But and maybe wire something up with that, and because I think we could do maybe some cross marketing. I don't know that anybody that is coming to your place and saying, "Hey, I want a roof and a pool." So, but for sure, I like to educate our customers, and really, for me, if I can get a customer into a pool and lower their electric bill at the same time, and they're financing it through one of our wherever they finance, that could really work, and then it just help think about whatever that take away that. Oh, how much is the electrical going to cost for this? And then if there was anything they could feed back to the house, or not knowing how all the details of that work, I'd like to look into that.
Yeah, and I guess that would be my question. Is that something you guys hear? Is that one of the top concerns of homeowners when they're looking at pools and jacuzzis?
Really, they will ask. It's always a question, but nobody's ever. I don't think anybody's ever said, we're just not going to buy it because of the electrical bill. It's just it's a 6-month price, and it's kind of a cost to play. And really, if you think about it, it costs less than a half a day on a boat.
Yeah.
So when you start.
Absolutely. It's definitely a better investment.
A month of a pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So they tie together, and it's something that actually, we bring it up, right? Like, I mean, it's one of the semi jokes that I'll make with homeowners is it's like, hey, with all the money you're going to save on your electric bill, now you can put in that pool.
Yeah, put in that pool. Yeah, buddy, I like that. Yeah.
As Randy was mentioning earlier, it's like this is the home improvement that you can do that actually pays you back. Like we're eliminating a cost that you have, and so what do you do with that extra money? You actually get to put it back in your discretionary spending.
You'll be swimming in it.
There you go. There it is.
Swimming in money. Well, see what you did there. Yeah, there should be people lined up. If people knew this, they would be lined up at his booth.
Yeah, maybe after watching this show, they will.
There we go.
Again, it's an education process.
We have dozens of
It
viewers.
is. It is.
Dozens. All right, excellent.
Yeah. And they all work for us. So.
Yeah. Well, you'll add a couple more.
They're getting an
education.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, listen, it's SunSent Solar and Roofing, or Roofing and Solar.
Either way.
Yeah, just
either way you want to say
call
it.
me whatever you
typically
want to say.
solar.
We're happy as long as you call.
SunSent.com.
Get your power sent from the sun.
I like that.
Outstanding.
I like that. And so your location and website, phone number, anything like that you want to tell us before we get out of here?
Yeah, so just go online, sunsent.com. So if you search on Google, they will try to auto-correct you to sunset. So make sure you get that second in.
Do you regret that now a little bit?
SENT. No, actually, it's because what's happening at this point, we've been at it long enough that it's starting to repopulate when people type in Sunset. So even if they're not looking for us, we're starting.
Showed them. You showed Sunset.
Right.
SunSent.com.
You got it.
And I guess with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up another edition of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. And as we say, dive safely.
Hey, we did that in tandem last time.
There we go.
So we're going to try to
Get it
start
down.
doing that. Okay. All right. Good deal.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.